Hello and welcome to One on One. I'm Vernon Ramesar, and I'm pleased to say my guest today is singer, songwriter, musician Rahil Babooram.
Hi,
Rahil, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
You're obviously a local musician,
right.
and you just performed at Napa.
Yes,
so congratulations on that.
Thank you very much.
I want to talk about your style of music and some of the other aspects that make you a bit unique. I mean, all musicians are unique, but
yes.
We can start by looking at your guitar, which is right there in front of us, and it's not just a guitar. As obviously a musician would need.
Yes.
It's also got Go Vegan on it.
That's right, if I may
show
the public.
Go Vegan on it. You've got a Hare Krishna message, and you've got the Beatles. These are all connected, aren't they?
Yes, actually.
To you, your style, and
in
everything about your musical
yes,
career.
universally.
The Beatles are hugely important to you, aren't they?
Yes, very much, because I actually been a fan my whole life due to my parents. They've been listening to that during the 60s, 70s. Mm-hmm. So I was born in 79. So I grew up listening.
No, everybody knows your age, so you just spoiled it. So.
That's good. You can appreciate, my vast background.
Right.
So basically, I grew up listening to the Beatles, Pink Floyd, Billy Joel, ELO, 60s, 70s classic rock, and of course 80s, because I grew up in the 80s. So as a result of George Harrison's song "My Sweet Lord," I got interested in the Hare Krishna teachings, the Vedic culture, and besides George Harrison, Paul McCartney, because of the multi-instrumentalists. I play everything myself to my recordings.
Kind of interesting, because obviously you're obviously an Indo-Trinidadian background.
Right.
It took an Englishman to lead
right.
you to...
Back to the heritage,
Full circle, yeah.
Yes.
That's really unusual, I have to say.
Yeah, I found
it's also unusual because a lot of kids tend to rebel against their parents' musical tastes.
Okay.
Obviously not so with you.
No, because, it's so good. Why would I rebel?
So you decided that you liked George Harrison, you liked that song, it gave you a spiritual sense
I've
of
been hearing
fulfillment.
it, all the time, but I got so inquisitive around 11, 12 when I started going to the Catholic Church, reading the Bible and comparing religions then, And I've been hearing this Hare Krishna thing in this song just casually, so I got curious. I said, let me check it out. I had a friend in school who was a Hindu, and I asked him, hey, you know anything about this? And he lent me this book called Chant and Be Happy, which featured conversations with John Lennon, George Harrison, and, from the Beatles. And, that book changed my life. I read it, and that was in '93. And I actually just stopped eating animals at that point. I was so inspired by what was written in there that I started trying to chant the Hare Krishna mantra myself, and learning more. I couldn't learn more unless I bought a bag of Gita, though. I hadn't grown up in a Hindu home or anything. So it was only until '96 in the Diwali Nagar, which I went to purposely to seek out the devotees. And I found them, and I bought a bag of Gita. I read it up for the following year. And then I started going to the temple off and on in '97 until, recently, so I have a lot of friends in the Hare Krishna community. My first album, Gauravani, actually was composed due to this influence of the philosophy.
Yeah. Should mention that. These are available online, I gather, as well.
Yes, TrinidadTunes.com.
4 of them in front of us here.
Yes, 4 albums now, and also in local music stores, a lot of stores like Cleves, Reiner's, who used to be in the airport. Actually, they're still in the airport, but now the M store, I believe. Actually, if you go to reverbnation.com/Rahil Babooram, you'd find a list of all the local stores that it's being sold at.
So you developed this interest in Hare Krishna, and I guess in Hinduism as a whole.
Yeah, the Vedic system.
You also were developing a love of music at that point as well.
Right.
I'm taking it that you're not from a musical family.
Well, the thing is, my dad used to play guitar. So,
oh, he did? Okay,
yes,
so you had one handy.
That's right. So the first instrument I picked up was his nylon string, 6-string guitar. So growing up, I had been holding and playing with it, but not playing an instrument. So when I was 11, when I was now going to enter high school, in that long summer holiday, it feels longer that time. I picked up...
Because we didn't have the internet then, that's why.
Yeah, yes. Perhaps that's why. Yeah. More outside, fresh air stuff, So I picked up his guitar book. My cousin and my brother, I have a brother who's 2 years younger, he also plays guitar. We started having a little band at home, just playing with a keyboard and guitar and using buckets for drums and stuff. And we recorded a cassette with some collaboration and stuff, childish stuff. But
we probably should explain what a cassette is to our younger viewers, but I'm not going to bother.
Well, that was in 1991, so right. Basically...
so you're, as they say, self-taught, but as you said, self-taught really based on observation and
reading and looking at videos of the artists I appreciate, So it was really in 1996 when I was in high school, I started writing serious songs and recording on cassettes and mixing each instrument. because between 1991 and 96, I had done piano lessons for about 2 years. I started learning guitar more intensely regarding books and with friends doing school. And each instrument learned when drums. I started practicing on the keyboard, of course. And of course the bass, due to Paul McCartney, I always had an interest, you know. But I never owned a bass until 97. But I've been playing on the guitar and practicing the bass lines and stuff.
Have you tried any of the traditional Indian instruments?
I always wanted to, but they're so costly.
That's true, actually, yeah.
I actually, because of the keyboard, I play the harmonium like at the temple and stuff, and the mirdanga, the Hare Krishna drum. So it's...
But you haven't branched into sitar yet, I guess.
That's it. Those cost, you know, something.
But it must be something you would love to do, because I know the Beatles certainly were heavily influenced by the sound of the sitar and Ravi Shankar.
I would love to put my hands on one, you know, it's just funding right now.
So when you started composing music, were you doing like... First of all, I guess you were doing covers of other people's songs at first, and religious music.
Actually, the thing is, I hardly did covers as a matter of recording. It just for fun at home or little gigs on you know, the time, like in school, from 1995 till 97. That was my last 2 years of school. We did like a couple live performances, prize day, that kind of stuff. And I used to be on drums back then because I would teach my friends to play guitar, and they had no rhythm to play drums. So yeah, I would sing and play drums at the time, kind of like a Ringo stuff.
Right.
You know. So what happened is after high school, I had this album, Gauravani, you know, in writing, and I said, okay, it's time to record this. So I did my album on cassette. It was only in 1999 though that I got to go in a real studio. That's Roger Israel and Diego Martin, and record this 12-track album, Gauravani. And of course my father had to fund it at that time. I wasn't working or anything. So we did that in about 20 hours. I recorded this album. All instruments, all vocals, everything myself. And then I was off to Toronto trying to pursue some academics. I wasn't too sure what I was going to do. That was just after A-levels. I came back to Trinidad in September, not having done anything new in Toronto except, you know, explore music. Of course, visit the Hare Krishna temple, meet new people, you know, promote a little bit. So back in Trinidad, over the years 2000 to 2000 and this year 2013, I produced the next 3 albums.
Which is the newest one, which is
it's the newest one,
Quattro.
Yes. So Quattro was actually an album that should have been released in 2008, but there were some studio issues that were beyond my control, holding it back. The most prominent song from this album is a song called All On You, which is an environmentally themed song. I've performed this last night, as you said, at the UNDP's Youth Talk Through Art event they held there. And basically this song has been on the indigenous radio charts on 91.1 FM for the last 6 months. And it had spent 4 weeks at #1. It's really it's a song I wrote in 2006. So, you know, it took so many years to become recognized, you know. And I look back and think, you know, what really was the difference between then and now? And the difference is that
the times changed and people became more interested in environmental themes, I guess.
That's true, but apart from that, the local content that's being suppressed from the airwaves, there's a more open atmosphere from groups like the Artists Coalition of Trinidad and Tobago, who have spearheaded, you know, these things to try to push local music. We want a 50% local quota on the airwaves to be fulfilled. So due to this mission, they started the indigenous radio program, started printing the charts in the Sunday Express. Every Sunday Express you can see the top 12. Getting, you know, some photo opportunities too with the charts. They would feature an artist each week, which have been a couple times this year. And due to that leverage though, having, okay, hey, you have a #1 song, I can go to a lot of the media people and say, you know, this is to my credit, so could you feature me please, help me to promote what I'm doing, you know. Instead of like last year or the year before when I was hardly on the radio and had nothing to show, you know, tangibly, even though I was producing my music. You know. So if I may backtrack a bit, from 2005, the Simply Rahil album is the second album. This was my first venture into
camera flare there, yeah.
That's right. Yes. This was my first venture into showing the world that I wasn't just a spiritual songwriter. this album features songs like A Love Song and other songs that show that I write about other issues, you know, relationships, feelings, and of course a couple animal rights songs on there, which I feel very strongly about too, you know. Of course, Paul McCartney has influenced me in that aspect, you know, with the vegetarianism. I happened to become vegetarian at 14 till 24. And when I was 24, I was reading about the dairy industry. And I realized, hey, I'm not really doing anything different, because by consuming dairy, purchasing dairy, I'm actually funding the murder of cows, which I'm totally against, you know. So that's when I became a vegan in full. So I try to use my music as a tool to educate people in that sense.
It's probably kind of a balancing act for you, isn't it? Because, I mean, you want to have the popularity,
right,
but people tend to stay away from preachiness when it comes to certain themes, especially if it's
yes,
not convenient for their own lives. If you're, for
right,
example, a meat eater, then you might feel a little sort of put upon.
Right.
So you have to balance those two, I guess, which must be kind of difficult,
yes,
from a commercial standpoint.
That's true. The thing about it is that I've been doing it so long that I've become used to the pros and cons of it. To me, the only pro that stands out and should matter is the fact that you're doing what's right, regardless of financial gain, regardless of popularity. You know, you're an artist. An artist is supposed to express him or herself truth.
Well, it wouldn't necessarily hurt you, because I know that some bands, for example, the Smiths in the 80s,
right,
were very vigorously vegan.
That's right.
Including the song Meat is Murder, I think. And
yes,
they didn't hurt their sales at all. So.
No, that's the thing. It's the thing is, with some of these artists, they had already been established in the forefront, you know. But in my case, I've been trying to establish myself with all these different themes at the same time.
Because you're throwing in religion as well sometimes.
Yeah, the spiritual aspect,
right,
the vegan aspect. Then there's the other side, the very plain materialistic side. I'll use the word materialistic as in romantic thoughts, feelings, social issues, a couple of songs like that. A couple of songs that really are just for fun. And like there's a song on the third album, Orange. If you could show that for me.
Yeah, so the... I suppose we should at some point ask about your fascination, and I'm sure there's a reason with the color
orange.
orange.
I knew that would come up.
Because I'm noticing that all of these on your shirt
that's right,
feature orange, and of course this was actually called orange, so let's get that out of the way immediately.
All right, great.
What's with the orange?
Well, basically the first answer I'll give is that's my favorite color. I've always loved the color. It's so vibrant, energetic, and upon reading more about the color, the energy that comes from the color orange, you know, it's in line with my creative aspect. It gives energy to those viewing and to myself as well. So it's an inspirational color in that sense.
I think it's also the only color that doesn't lose its vibrancy as the light dims. It maintains the same vibrancy.
Right, there's a glow.
Yeah.
You know. Also on the spiritual side, you know, there's what is called, I'm trying to find a Sanskrit word, but basically it's called yukta vairagya, meaning simultaneous usage and renunciation. So that people think to be spiritual, to practice spirituality, you have to give up things. But the perspective of the Vedanta is that people can use what they have in spiritual service, and that is also renunciation. So the orange, or in the spiritual terms, the saffron, which I don't really represent, but I like to portray, is to show that the spiritual aspect can be used whatever you have. So in my case, the music. I try to use my music for spiritual means. So when people see me, they think these positive things. Then they hear the songs I'm singing about veganism, Hare Krishna, love, these things. Hardly any of my songs are what you would say are negative or horrific. I would go into the animal rights songs, like there's a song called Kalamnasti, which I did on the first album, Gauravani, in a metal version. And then on the second album, I did a reggae version. And then there's an acoustic version on the fourth album. The reason I bring up Kalamnasti is that when people think about horror, they usually think of it happening to themselves. But in the case of the animals, the other beings, it's a horror story every day, every minute,
I find it interesting because, you've got all these themes that have worked into each of your albums and sort of permeating your work in general,
right,
that you try and sort of harmonize together.
Yes.
And your musical style is all over the landscape, isn't it?
Well,
I'm just looking at this one next to me here. You've got rock, acoustic, reggae.
Yeah,
And you've got some spiritual songs.
Right. it's just really thinking also marketing-wise. I would appeal to a wider audience because I play at a lot of open mic shows. I've played at rum shops. I've played at large venues like Napa and the Central Bank this year. So to appeal to different people, I may meet of all races, of all backgrounds, of all spiritual following. Sometimes a lot of atheists too. You know, there is something for everyone in a sense. I've actually appealed to some atheist people with a song called Flickering and Unsteady from their first album.
Which is a reggae song, yeah.
Actually, it's a rock version to it. And
is it?
the
Okay.
second album I did in reggae because when I'd been playing it live between 1998 and 2002, I had been getting feedback from the crowd, you know, like there were some Rasta people who came up to me and said, hey, it's some real conscious, you know. So I got the idea when I'm playing live. I did half the song in rock, and then I coached the band to do the rest of the song in reggae.
I guess it's also a function of the fact you're in a small market, aren't you? And you really can't afford almost to be so narrowly focused that I don't assume there'll be enough people who will buy that album.
Exactly, because people already have certain stigmas concerning rock music in Trinidad. So that, you know, once you say rock, they think it's heavy metal or grunge, you know, but there's also soft rock, there's pop rock, there's moderate rock, classic rock, all these kinds of rock. So in my case, if I'm playing at a rock show in general in Trinidad, people usually find it hard to see what would I be doing there because they know my style is not so heavy.
Right.
You know? So usually I'm the most moderate artist on the bill.
To get the people to calm down a little bit before the
Yeah,
next
like in
stage.
between.
We have about 10 minutes, and of course we've had the guitar sitting there, and we haven't really had you play anything. So perhaps, given that you are a musician, maybe I should let us, our viewers have a sample of
that'd be very nice.
What are you going to play for us?
Actually, I'll do the song called All In You, since I've been talking about it so much.
Okay.
This song, I actually wrote this, as I said, in 2006. It's released on the album called Truth and Michigan. So you can get this album in local music stores. You can check online. Oh, there it is. You can check online on Facebook for me. It's Rahil Babooram. Facebook.com/Rahil Babooram. All promotional info you can find there. So here's a song called All In You. Take a walk any day. Do you still see much green on your way? Throw your garbage anywhere. Apparently the effects don't seem to scare. Will your trash fill the air? You don't care a thing about the atmosphere. The birds in the trees know how to behave, so why can't we just take back turn? The shame is all on you. What goes around comes around. When it's all gone, what will we do? The blame is only on you. So that's just a sample for you.
Well, it's nice to have it in the studio live. So it's kind of cool. Is that ELO as well?
Oh yes.
We were talking about classic rock, but ELO came into my head.
Yeah, Jeff Lynne. You know, Jeff Lynne was on ELO called "Sons of the Beatles" by John Lennon. You know, so you know, top band.
Your interest in the environment, is that related also to your religious views and your veganism as
Actually,
well? Or are they all sort of parallel things?
It happened separately, but it is in line because, you know, we, according to the Vedic teachings, one is to appreciate the supreme in everything, every atom. You know, he's said to be existing in as Paramatma, the super soul. So when we respect the environment, we respect animals, when we respect fellow human beings and all forms of life, energy, the environmental cause is in there, because by respecting spiritually, you automatically respect physically as well.
So everything is interconnected, I guess,
yes,
in
exactly.
one way or another.
And so karma is also the law of karma, action and reaction. You know, it's a scientific law. Basically, doing injustice to anything, to anyone, you know, you get back that either now or in the future or in another lifetime, depending on how long it takes to happen. You know, So by slaughtering animals, we get back violence, pain, and sorrow in society through wars, crime, personal strife, and grief. And as a result of this, that may inspire people to change. If not for the immediate reason of, hey, this animal is suffering, but consequence-wise, hey, I will suffer in the future. So there's always some prompt for people to improve.
Okay, so that was a socially conscious song, an environmentally conscious song.
Yes.
Give us an example of a fun song that you would that you would like to perform just for the heck of it.
Exactly. So this song is a song called Wow from the album Orange. Yeah, that's a better view.
With a lot less hair, I see.
Yeah, actually. That was in 2005 I released that album. So a song called Wow, which was written actually in '96, back in high school. So this song is just for fun. So.
Well, that was fun. And you were 17, I guess, when you composed that, were you?
Yes, I was.
What inspired it? Just
sitting on in class and
not paying attention to school.
I have a book. I used to use a diary book, a little black book, where I keep my poems in. Roger Waters. Yeah, and I was rewriting lyrics in between classes and looking out the window at the grass, just getting ideas of birds and these kinds of things. And there was a girl in class, because in A-levels in presentation college they started bringing girls in that year. So I had been interested. Let's just say a crush, on one of them. So during that year, I had a couple of songs, about 3 songs inspired by that person. Eventually, she got to hear them.
Oh, she did.
She's married and stuff now. But she
not to you, obviously, but
yeah.
So I guess it didn't work, but
she liked the song.
That counts for something.
Yeah, it's always a good feeling when the subject of a song approves of the material, because the feelings and the ideas, the fantasies.
It wasn't like You're So Vain or something like that. I'll just remind people, we have a few minutes left, and I have a special request from our crew in the background there, talking in my ear.
Okay, great.
So I'll ask you to take us out when we do go with something from the Beatles, or maybe George Harrison.
I can
think of which one you'll play. But remind people where they can get your music.
Yes, exactly. I should do that. First of all, you can check out facebook.com/Rahil Babooram. Also, you could check reverbnation.com/Rahil Babooram. Or you could just Google my name, Rahil Babooram. You'd find the YouTube, you'd find the Google, there's the twitter.com/my full name again. Also, in Trinidad, in the music stores such as Cleves, Song Research in Gulf City, and Just CDs in Movie Town, Music Track in Trin City Mall, and there are some other stores I'm supplying right now, so you could find all this info online.
I guess you're not making a full living still with music. It's very hard to do that in this country.
Actually,
well, it depends how simply you live, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, in my case, I live, as I say, simply Rahil.
Right.
But I've been blessed so that I don't have to struggle in that sense, you know, due to my past savings and all of that through music and other things I've been doing, you know.
Well, I want to thank you, Rahil, for being in the program. As we're going to go out with music, so I'll just thank you ahead of time.
Thank you very much
so much for being
that.
here. And if you can take us out, as the crew is requesting, Leroy in particular, some Beatles, if you have any.
Okay, great.
Which I know you do.
I surely do. Well, this song is actually a song by George Harrison called... Let me just adjust my guitar. It's in the right key. It's called a capo.
Okay.
All right. Song called Give Me Love, Give Me Peace.